they want to eat petroleum, they ought to add it themselves at home. But they shouldn't be feeding it to the rest of us.
Bobby Kennedy, as prophesied, is changing the world. He's getting the food dyes out of food. He's getting the bad guys against the rope. He's hitting Big Pharma right where it hurts, in the cojones of their profit. Whether it's Pfizer or Moderna or the other giddy profiteers of the pandemic era, Bobby Kennedy has got them on the end of a stiff jab when they wanted to stiff jab us with spike proteins that migrate to the tissue around the heart, causing myocarditis, pericarditis, and a variety of peculiar brain diseases, it seems. But Kennedy ain't stopping there. He's looking into links between autism and vaccines. He's interrogating and investigating the pharmaceutical complex industrial set deep down at the molecular level at which they need to be studied. Let's look inside that Petri dish and look where the fungus comes from. Bobby Kennedy, is he about to change the world? Is he already changing? Let me know in the comments and chat what you think about him. Do you believe in him? I certainly do. Let us focus on the Maha Revolution. Here we go. First of all, food dyes to be phased out by Trump's administration. Okay, phased out. Is it going to happen? How quickly is it going to happen? Petroleum-based synthetic dyes are out of the food supply. Common sense, right? So here we have in the United States of America, petroleum-based food dyes are going to be phased out. In the United Kingdom, we're going to block out the sun. Okay, so which country's going in the right direction? You tell me. Here's Marty Makary, friend of the show, brilliant scientist and writer, now running the Food and Drug Administration Agency. In any event, food and drugs are now going to be administrated a little better.
Today, the FDA is taking action to remove petroleum-based food dyes from the U.S. food supply and from medications. For the last 50 years, American children have increasingly been living in a toxic soup of synthetic chemicals. The scientific community has conducted a number of studies raising concerns about the correlation between petroleum-based synthetic dyes and several health conditions, such as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, obesity, diabetes, insulin resistance, cancer, genomic disruption, GI issues, as I've seen in the hospital, and allergic reactions. For example, this Lancet study conducted a randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled study on food dyes and concluded that artificial colors in the diet, quote, result in increased hyperactivity. So why are we taking a gamble?
Isn't this what you thought that the socially conscientious, social justice-oriented left would be about? Making sure children don't eat poison, that children aren't continually intoxicated? Isn't that what you thought they were about? Or did you always know that the left was about state control, using liberalism as a mask in order to command and demand more authority? You see the same arguments used around climate change. Climate change, fine, whether it's real or not. What do you want to do about it? We want to control the actions of individuals and grant further centralised authority to centralised organisations, both governmental and private. We want the ability to leverage new taxes and control people's movements. Is that what you think the solution is? If it is, I've seen that game. I've seen that game already. Here's Bobby Kennedy saying, if you want petroleum in your food, add it at home. It's a new condiment. Little bit of salt, little bit of pepper, little bit of Tabasco, and just for good measure, let's squeeze this right out of the arse of the Michelin Man.
When I went in a few months or about a month ago to meet with a few food companies, I was talking with my staff about these petroleum-based dyes, and I said, if they want to add petroleum, they want to eat petroleum, they ought to add it themselves at home. But they shouldn't be feeding it to the rest of us.
Pretty good point. And what about this revelation that the average teenage boy has got less testosterone than a 68-year-old man? The testosterone levels of a jaded general. Let's have a look.
When my uncle was president, 3% of American kids had chronic disease. Today it's around 60%. And these are a broad category, the ones that Marty mentioned, like ADHD, the neurological disorders, ADD, ADHD, speech delay, language delay, tics, Tourette syndrome, narcolepsy, ASD, and autism. All of these are injuries that I never heard of when I was a kid. They were not part of the nomenclature. They weren't part of the dialogue. There was zero spent in this country treating chronic disease when my uncle was president. Today it's about $1.8 trillion annually. It's bankrupting our nation. 74% of American kids cannot qualify for military service. Oh, how are we going to maintain our global leadership with such a sick population? We have all these autoimmune diseases, these exotic diseases, and again, I never heard of juvenile diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, Crohn's disease, and 100 others that were just unknown when I was a kid. I never knew anybody with a peanut allergy. I never knew anybody with a food allergy. Why do 5 of my 7 kids have allergies? I never knew of anybody who had eczema. I knew of a very small number of children who had asthma, but that has exploded as well today. And our fertility is dropping dramatically. Teenagers in this country today have the same testosterone levels as 68-year-old men.
Let me know in the comments and chat if that's what you voted for, America. Someone that would stand up and tell it how it is when it comes to vital subjects like food. How is it that we get bogged down in esotericism, racism, minute cultural and social issues when what's plainly very, very near the upper echelons of what we ought prioritize is what people put into their bodies, what people put into their minds? How can we function well when we're poisoning ourselves, paying them for the privilege? How did they get away with it for as long as they did? Aren't you glad that now you have at the vanguard a glorious warrior fighting on your behalf? Let me know in the comments and the chat. My dog's got health challenges. We've all got a lot of challenges. The simple truth is that most dogs aged over 10 years old will die of cancer. Not turbo cancers, unless you've been vaccinating your dogs. But life comes to an end. But why should your dog's life come to a premature end? It should. Don't have a premature dog death. Give them rough greens instead. 50% of dogs over 10 will die of cancer. And the other 40 to 50% suffer miserably from skin issues or joint problems. This is widely attributed to your dog's diet. So here's the good news. These numbers are what inspired naturopathic doctor Dennis Black to create Rough Greens. Rough Greens, Rough Greens. With thousands of testimonials and 5-star reviews every month, Rough Greens is now the #1 all-natural dog supplement in the United States of here. They have helped millions of pups like mine stay active and be healthy, and your pup could be next. You don't have to change your dog's food to improve your dog's health. Just add a scoop of Rough Greens. Fetch a free Jumpstart trial bag for your dog today. You just cover the shipping. Go to roughgreens.com. Just use the promo code Russell. That's RUFF greens.com and use the promo code Russell. Sausages. You can just give it a little scoop of Rough Greens. Your dog will live forever. Then your dog will eat you when you're dead. And that's the circle of life. It's a circle. It's the circle of life. Rough Greens. Ruff. And here's something that used to be unsayable except for on platforms such as Rumble. It seems that there might be some link between all of this toxicity in food, all of these unexamined medicines, many of which have been clinically trialed under incredibly favourable conditions, and indeed vaccines. Vaccines, that peculiar outlier granted indemnity from prosecution in the event that they cause injury or even death, may be connected to autism. Well, there's one way to find out: clinical trials. Why would they continually resist clinical trials? Well, what it is they were so worried that the information from the clinical trials is going to exonerate them so much that everyone will fart themselves unconscious. That must have been it. Oh my God, there's so little link between vaccines and autism that everyone, when they viewed the clinical trial data, farted themselves unconscious. Not only that, they began to put McDonald's straws in their mouths, feed it into their pie hole and suck farts up. It was an unexpected and unanticipated event. It could be that, or it could be that they know that the clinical trials will reveal a causal link between vaccines and autism. Could it be that? Here's Jay Bhattacharya, guest of the show, friend of the show, bold, outspoken, smeared during the pandemic, telling you that they are now going to investigate whether or not there are links between vaccines and autism.
Secretary Kennedy has asked me to, for instance, to initiate a study on autism, the cause of the rise in autism. It's a question that is at the front of the minds of so many parents across the country worried about their kids, and yet scientific progress on this has been slow because scientists are frankly scared to ask the question.
What is causing autism? Shut up! Shut up! What? You're causing autism. You're the cause of autism. You and your stupid questions. No, but like we're scientists and everything, shouldn't we look into why there's been such an extraordinary exponential rise in autism? Could it be connected to all of these vaccines and the toxicity in food, other poor environmental factors and bad medicines? Can we investigate that? No. Let's focus on what God would want. Blocking out the sun.
The goal of my leadership at the NIH is going to make it so that those questions are no longer taboo among scientists. Scientists need to work on the things that actually are at the top of the minds of the American people. The mission of the NIH is to do research that extends the life expectancy and improves the health of the American people, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Since 2012, the United States has seen no increase in life expectancy, none. And it collapsed during the pandemic, and only recently has it started to come back up to 2019 levels. That is a situation that is a catastrophic failure of the American public health system, and it frankly is also a failure of American scientists to address the key drivers of this enormous chronic disease crisis we're facing. And I'm really grateful to Secretary Kennedy for his leadership, and I'm grateful to President Trump for his leadership in giving us the opportunity to turn the ingenuity of American scientists to the questions of how to improve American health and to make America healthy again. Thank you.
With all this common sense abundantly spilling out onto the airwaves, with this kind of information accessible, how on earth are we going to keep a docile and compliant population fed into trenches and onto battlefields and into hospitals and into clinics and ultimately into graveyards without ever experiencing the glory of the light? Is going to be tough. I mean, there's even announcements, or at least conversations, around cell phones and the danger of cell phones. All of those kind of common sense revelations that have been on the edge of your mind ever since you were a kid, ever since such things even occurred to you, like, should I be eating all this sugar? Should I be eating all of these dyes? Is it good to eat fast food? Should I be watching pornography the whole time? Is it dangerous to hold a cell phone next to your head? Is it good for kids to be staring at these screens all the time? All of these conversations are happening now. Are you aware of how epochal this is and how significant it could be? I'm not suggesting there aren't many things yet to be considered and resolved. Of course there are. We are in a fallen kingdom, controlled yet by the evil one. But doesn't it hearten you somewhat to see Bobby Kennedy say, if you've got a kid, don't let them hold cell phones next to their head. Check this common sense out.
You got a kid, don't ever let him put his cell phone near his head. And, don't let him carry it in one of his front pockets. If it's a girl, don't let them carry the cell phone in their breast pocket. Don't let them carry them anywhere near their ovaries. And the farther the cell phone is from your head, when you're talking, the better off you are.
That's why I sellotape my cell phone to my testicles. It's there now. My left testicle and my right testicle are chatting to one another right now. Hey, I think we're getting cancer. Hey, listen, I don't have to listen to you. Hey, when are we going to get to produce some sperms? I don't know. Let's see what Keir Starmer's doing. Well, before you produce any sperms at all, make sure you don't get any perishing AIDS. It's out there everywhere. You might be out there boogie on down, listening to the sweet sounds of the 1980s, disco diving, doing a bit of the old devil's dandruff, and all of a sudden, you've got the stink blood up your butt.
This is not hyperbole when I say tens of thousands of studies that show the really extreme dangers of cell phone radiation.
Will RFK remove the COVID vaccine as a mandatory shot for kids? Let's check that out.
Well, in terms of President Trump doesn't believe that anybody should get mandatory vaccines. There's a medical intervention. It has risks. People should make that choice for themselves. The COVID vaccine, the recommendation for children was always dubious. And it was dubious because kids had almost no risk for COVID-19. Certain kids that had very profound morbidities may have a slight risk. Most kids don't. So why are we giving this to tens of millions of kids when the vaccine itself does have profound risk? We've seen huge associations with myocarditis and pericarditis, with strokes, with other injuries, with neurological injuries. And this was clear even in the clinical data that came out of Pfizer. There were actually more deaths. There were about 23% more deaths in the vaccine group than the placebo group. So, we need to ask questions and we need to consult with parents. We need to give people informed consent, and we shouldn't be making recommendations that are not good for the population.
This is an unusual time to be alive. It's a challenging and frightening time where it becomes increasingly clear that the culture is geared towards hypnosis and capture of all of us, every one of us. We're all caught up in dispute and despair and chasing around after false idols, pursuing pointless goals, knowing that we are hunted and stalked by inevitable death, not taking the time to even reflect as to whether we should turn away from sin and turn towards the great light available to all of us. The reason that I'm most heartened by the ascent of Bobby Kennedy is because I've met Bobby Kennedy, met Jay Bhattacharya and Marty Makary, Steph there hanging out in the background. I know Dr. Oz, I know these people. Now, I know I'm not claiming that I am some barometer for judicious behavior, kindness, and even spiritual clarity and veracity. But you know how you can sort of feel a person's goodness and intentions, not to mention that, that's not the only measure that we're using. We're looking at their policies and what they're saying and what they've done over time, and all of that, is being aggregated. But what particularly heartens me is I've been around powerful people, I suppose, one way or another, ever since I've been famous. And I've always had that eerie sense of hypocrisy and corruption that oozes from every pore when I've been in their corridors or their award ceremonies, when I've been in the environments where they conduct their ceremonies of grandiosity, elevating human achievement and human beings more generally, only so that nefarious and evil ends can be achieved via distraction. But meeting Bobby Kennedy and Dr. Oz and Marty Makary and Jay Bhattacharya, I feel genuine authenticity. These are people that have dedicated their lives to what they believe in, that can speak fluently, openly, candidly, expertly on the subjects around which they now manage, administrate, and govern. This hasn't happened for a long time. It's not happened in my memory. I've always just sort of generally felt, these people are corrupt, man. Haven't you? Didn't you just grow up thinking, I don't vote? When I was a kid, I never had voted. I still haven't voted because you're not. Where I come from, when I grew up, you realise, what's the point in this? They're all just different varieties of con artists. I kind of knew that, the way that you know it. But I'd vote for Bobby Kennedy. And I believe that Donald Trump is some powerful bulwark that's broken through globalist imperialism almost by some inherent ingenuity within him. That's not what I used to think. I used to think he was an extraordinary anomaly in a bunch of ways. But now what I think is that he's opened the gate for radical change, and there are some extraordinary people in this administration, and I still have great fears and tensions, perhaps born of ignorance, perhaps born of experience, about the trajectory of the world when it comes to geopolitics and wars and endless wars and where real power lies. But when it comes to Bobby Kennedy, Dr. Oz, and the people that make up this Maha movement, I feel great optimism, and I feel that the Lord's work can be done through them. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments and the chat?
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.